Hey, it's the Local Spotlight Show here at WJBM Studios in Jerseyville, Illinois, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Chris Lorton. I'm your host today. And with me, I have Ted Prehn. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Chris. Glad to be here.
Yes. Ted, as most of you probably already know, cattle and grain farmer in Jerseyville, and co-owner and operates the Fritz Meat and Processing here in Jerseyville as well.
Yes.
And Ted, you've had your fingers in a lot of different things over time.
Yeah, it seems like I've lived a few lifetimes.
Yes.
Lots going on.
Now, Ted, and we found out a few years ago, I think maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years ago.
That we were actually distant cousins.
Yes, sir.
And what was it, your great-grandfather?
No, my grandmother, my mom's mom, was a Lorton.
Yeah.
And lived in Whitehall. And I got a call from my cousin in San Antonio. He said, "Hey, you going to go to the Lorton reunion?" And I said, "No, I hadn't planned on it." He said, "Well, Chris Lorton's the president of the Lorton family reunion." And so I said, "Well, I know Chris. He owns George's. We're in there all the time." And
you made it.
And I made it to the Lorton class reunion, or not class reunion, family reunion.
Family reunion, yes. Have one every year. Yes.
Every year, first weekend in November.
Yes. Now, you started off, you're living in Jerseyville now, but you started off in Bethalto. Were you born in Bethalto?
I was actually born in Alton at Alton Memorial, but yeah, lived my life, most of my early life in Bethalto, a third-generation Bethalto boy.
Oh, yeah.
Proud, raised in Bethalto to be
Bethalto grade school, high school?
Civic Memorial grad, 1980, Civic Memorial grad. So arch rivals of Jerseyville Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
We had a great banner back and forth over the years.
Now, were you like a sports guy back in
not
high
much,
school?
Not much. I was the guy that helped the starting five. I sat the bench and helped the starting five in my underclass years. But once when I junior in high school, I had an opportunity to get a job at UPS, and so I went to work right away as a junior in high school. So.
Okay. And you didn't go to college either?
No, I did not. You
skipped college?
I skipped college. I've just got the School of Hard Knocks is where I went to college. I did go to Lewis and Clark. I took a lot of classes at Lewis and Clark, and probably 15, 20 hours away from having an associate's degree, but I never did finish or complete it.
I don't think it really hurt you much.
No, I don't think it does. In retrospect, I think it worked out okay.
When you think about it, guys like you, that, skip college and just go to work. I mean, it's not like you're not learning every day. You learn things. And
still learning every day.
Every day, yes.
Yeah, we're still learning.
I hear you. But you got into, so you worked for UPS. At what point in time did you start getting into real estate? Because you got a lot of, real estate's been your bag for many years. So
yeah, well, I guess starting in the workforce young, I wanted to work. So out of high school, I went to work at Kmart just to have another full-time job during the week, and then still kept my UPS job and knew that I needed to do something else. So my family, my great uncle and grandpa had a real estate office and a development business in Bethalto. They were in the hardware and lumber business years ago, back in early 1900s.
Okay.
And then out of that, they got into the real estate business. And so my parents also had their real estate license. So I knew that real estate was sort of in my blood. I'd been around it my whole life. Usually,
so your parents, were they in the real estate business too?
They had their licenses, but my dad worked at McDonnell Douglas, and Mom stayed at home with us until we were in grade school.
But they had that license. They were ready to sell.
They were ready to sell.
Probably made a few sales along the way.
They did, probably. Yeah, they did make a few sales and did some ventures in the real estate. So I sort of grew up in that line of work, and realized that's something that I could do and would like to do possibly. And so that's where my education came in. I went to Lewis and Clark to get my get my real estate license, and also took accounting and a number of other business classes. And when I turned 21, you got to be 21.
Yeah.
And you got to go to school and get your degree.
You got to be 21 to be a real estate agent?
Minimum 21 to be a real estate agent. Unless, now I think the rules maybe have changed now, but unless you have a 4-year degree and you get it before you're age 21, you can be in the real estate business. But you have to also pass a state test. And so I did that when I became 21 and started selling real estate as soon as I could. Actually, I took I took the class before I became 21, and in June, right after my 21st birthday, I started selling real estate.
Who were you working for?
Back then, I worked for Future World Real Estate in Bethalto. Charlie Bertles and Harold Balsters owned that real estate company. And
was real estate a sideline for you at that time?
Well, I would say the UPS. I kept that UPS job because that was my security. It had health insurance and dental insurance and everything else, and it was an evening job, so I kept that and started selling real estate after that. And then during that time frame, I also bought my first farm down in Fosterburg. And
when you're in your early 20s?
Yeah, I was 20 when I bought my first farm. Yeah, just west of Fosterburg. So,
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's kind of crazy for a 20-year-old to be buying a farm.
I had big dreams and took that farm and turned it into a small land development called Timber Lake Providence.
Yeah.
And then developed a construction crew with the goal of building houses in that development, in that subdivision. And we built a number of apartments and did some room additions and things. Never did end up building houses in that development because it was the mid '80s. And mid '80s. So, what were the interest rates? Like 18% or something? Yeah. I mean, 15.9 and 17%. I mean, I had
crazy.
2 or 3. It was just unbelievable. So when I bought that farm initially, because farms were prevalent back then and they couldn't sell them, there was a lot of them, and so I bought that farm contract for deed. That was my first venture into
Do you remember
financing.
what kind of interest rate you had to pay on that?
10%.
10%
on a contract
and you
for
thought
deed.
You were getting a deal.
I thought I was getting a deal because the bank wanted 15%.
Right.
So I had 10, and I turned that farm into I had 2 houses on it, so I rented the houses out. I rented the tillable out to a local farmer. I had a lake on it, and I rented. If you wanted to buy a fishing permit for the year, you could buy a fishing permit and for $35 a year, and you could go fishing in my lake. And I had storage in one of the buildings, anything I could to make the cash flow to make the payments. But I made it work.
Now, were you married yet?
No.
Okay, still single.
Yeah, still single. wasn't even dating anybody. I think at the time I was just real interested in working at that stage.
So, at what time? What was the next move you made?
Well, so after I had all this going on, worked for Future World, I went to work for Remax for a couple of years, and then I came back and bought that Future World franchise and started Realty World Prehn. That was like in 1984. And I ran a Realty World franchise there in Bethalto, right on Prairie Street for 2 or 3 years until mid 80s. And the bank, again, it was like 86, and the bank sort of said, Ted, you're going to have to pay up on your note. So they called my note.
They called your note out.
They called my note, and it was the funniest thing because Dad happened to be on the bank board.
Yeah.
And so they got my dad cornered one night after a board meeting and said, Teddy's in deep water here, and we really need you to sign this note. And without asking me, Dad signed the note.
Oh.
So now not only it was okay if it was just me and the bank, but now I had Dad's pressure on me because he's now a security to the note. Up to that point, he wasn't. The bank was lending me the money without Dad's.
And Dad didn't tell you.
And Dad didn't tell me. He thought he was doing me a favor, helping me out, and then he had the pressure on me. So we ended up selling everything. I had like 14 units and the land development, and we sold everything off and paid all the debt. and I had my tail tucked for a while. In
Yeah.
1987, 88, I went to work for Scott Adams, Adams Development.
Yeah. So, hey, if you're just joining us, I have Ted Prehn with me here at studio, cattle and grain farmer right now in Jerseyville, and co-owner of Fritz Meat and Processing. Going on his history. So you got working for Scott Adams selling real estate.
I did,
And,
yeah.
And, you know, you got into the commercial. Is that when you started getting into commercial?
It was, yeah, because that's Adams. They had a few residential units, but the majority of their work was commercial along the Homer Adams Parkway. They had a number of strip centers and commercial land, and so
What would you say? Because you've been in both, you know, the local, you know, housing type real estate, and then you got the commercial. You got residential and commercial. So, what do you think is the big difference between residential and commercial real estate selling?
Commercial is more of a business atmosphere than residential, I would say, meaning that you're a Monday through Friday, typically during the daylight hours when business is done. Not you're not doing weekends or nights and in the real estate business. So that's primarily the thing. But there's a lot of nuances to the commercial industry that you need to know in order to sell commercial real estate.
You got to get a
correctly.
Got to get a commercial license. Don't
No,
you?
it's the same license as a residential agent, but so you know, a residential agent can sell commercial real estate, but if they're not acclimated or don't understand the nuances that are around commercial real estate or even agricultural real estate, residential agents can sell farms, but if they don't know how to sell farms, if they've never really sold farms, they don't understand what a PI is, you know, what the property or what the soil types are, things like that.
Did you kind of think at that age, at that time, that maybe commercial real estate selling it was less competitive? Is that why you went into it? Or was there more money in it?
I think there was more upside potential for money in it. There's definitely more opportunity for money, and a better lifestyle or better living. And at that stage, when I went to work for Scott, I was married, and in that realm of having my own company and everything and selling everything, I got married, and so it was.
You had a lot going on.
There was a lot going on in the mid '80s.
How did you and Julie get together?
She worked for a title company, and I was in Alton.
Right down your alley.
Right down my alley. I was in Alton at a finance company, and I locked my keys in the car. Honest, I locked my keys in the car. I didn't set it up or anything.
Okay.
I just did it.
I believe you.
And she happened to come into the finance company, the savings and loan. It was Anchor Savings and Loan, and about the time I realized I locked my keys in the car. Now, I still worked at UPS, so I still had to get to UPS. This was in the afternoon, so I had to get home and get my keys and get down to UPS, get back and get my car and get to UPS by 6 o'clock. And so she was behind me, and I was telling the girls my dilemma, and the girls in the savings loan, well, Julie's going towards Bethalto from Alton. She's going back to Edwardsville. She can
just catch a ride.
Yeah, she can drop you off.
Yeah.
And she's behind me saying, no, I don't want to do that. And so they hooked her into doing it, and she ended up bringing me home.
Do you think they were thinking, what were they thinking?
Well,
were they trying to matchmake you guys?
It might have been because the conversation earlier in the day with the same ladies was, this girl from Midwest Title, I got to get to know her. She is cute as can be. I got to.
You were telling these girls?
Yeah, and so they knew the before story, and then Julie walks in, and Julie will take you home. So she got hooked into taking me home, and from there I said, I have to repay you for taking me home.
Of course.
Yeah, I've got to take care of you. So let me take you out to dinner on Saturday night. So we went to Canetto's over in South City, and I took her to the Arch. She'd never been to the Arch before.
Uh-huh.
And that was a That was a
and then
deal.
Canettos,
and then Canettos, and it was over.
And then you never looked back.
I was ready to get married.
You were?
She was.
How many dates? How many dates before you're ready to get married? How much time?
Well, seriously, this was not. It was not going to take long because she was exactly what I was looking for. But it took me 6 months to convince her.
Yeah. Well, I understand.
This happened in June, early June, but we did get married in January that next year, so it was pretty quick.
Yeah, that was quick.
But it took me a while to convince her that I was the right one. Once I convinced her, 30 days later, we got married. And a pretty unique wedding as well. We got married in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Now,
on the steps of the United States Capitol building. Pretty exciting.
And what was the...
Well, I happened to be...
story for that?
Well, I was out there in Washington. I had to be in Washington in January for a conference for my Realty World franchise. And all the Realty World owners were getting together, and they teach you about what their franchise obligations are and things like that, because I had bought a Realty World franchise. And so I needed to be in Washington, D.C. Well, in December, we decided we were going to get married, early December. We were going to wait a whole year until the following December to get married. And I went to Florida with my parents, and I was away from her over the Christmas holidays, and it just tore me up. And I came back from that trip down to Florida, and I said, I don't want to wait. And I'm going to D.C. on the 11th. Let's just go to Washington, D.C. and get married. We didn't have an idea where or anything. And so we all agreed on January 1st, we all get together as a family up at the farm at my Aunt Ruby's in Scottville. And I told the whole family, I said, well, we're getting married in 11 days in Washington, D.C., and anybody that wants to come, you're welcome to come,
Yeah.
And we had 17 of our family, closest family and friends there, and her mom stood up for her. My dad stood up for me.
Nice.
And
who married you?
You probably remember. Well, we had a Methodist minister there in Washington, D.C. We convinced him that we weren't crazy and that we really were legitimate. And he performed the ceremony, and we had communion as our first meal together on the steps of the Capitol. But the most interesting thing is Melvin Price was our congressman back then, mm-hmm. and he was one of the more powerful congressmen in Washington, D.C. So he got us the steps of the United States Capitol building, and he was at our wedding, stood for 40 minutes at our wedding outside on January the 11th. And it was a beautiful day. It was 45 to 50 degrees. But the year before that, they canceled Reagan's second inaugural parade because it was so cold. Right. But a year later, this was in 85. It was beautiful, just a beautiful day. And so that was the wedding.
All right. Now, speaking of DC, at what point in time did you get into politics? Because you got into politics, ran for
I was
something. What was you?
When I turned 18, I started getting into politics. I wanted to be a public servant and a politician, and serve the people. And so, when I was 18, I started and served in various boards and commissions. Was elected to the county board at one point in time in Madison County, and ran for the Illinois House of Representatives in 1994. So that was all part of that whole politics thing. And that was one of the reasons, sort of the thought in the back of my mind of the Washington, D.C., that, we may renew our vows at some time in the future, and I'll announce a big campaign or something.
Yeah. Now, you ran for state rep, and you lost,
I
right?
did, yes.
Was it a close race? Or
very close, yeah. Lost by 217 votes out of 25,000 cast. So,
that was close.
Yeah.
Could have been a whole different life if you'd won.
It would have been a whole different life. It would have been. And I was caught up in it for a while and came to the realization that I needed to raise my boys and be home with the family instead of chasing
looking
politics.
back, are you kind of glad that you didn't win?
Yeah, yes. I don't have any regrets. God's in control, Chris, and he sort of directed the path.
Yeah, we know that, don't we?
God's in control. So
at this point in time, you are in commercial real estate, okay? But you ended up accumulating some good properties in that Alton area.
I did, yes. Yeah, that was one of the benefits of that. So before I had accumulated a lot of real estate in the early 80s because I recognized that I needed to have cash flow. That's what the whole real estate, the main goal of real estate ownership is to have cash flow.
Right.
And so I had to sell all of those. I did keep one house, my first house we kept, and I still had it. We paid all of our debt and then went to work for Adams. In 1989, I had a transaction, a client that was being relocated by the bridge, the new Clark Bridge there in downtown Alton.
Yeah.
And they needed to have a laboratory space. And so I found the building, had the tenant, and I went to Jack Helmkamp at Illinois State Bank back then. And I said, Jack, I've got the tenant. They'll pay for the building and the improvements in the first 5-year lease. It's a multinational company.
Yeah.
I said, Jack, the only problem is I don't have any money.
Just one problem.
Will you finance it for me? Will you finance it? And it was amazing. Jack Helmkamp and Illinois State Bank said, "Yeah, we'll roll with you, Ted." And I put that deal together in 1989, and they are just leaving me this year. They finally are vacating. They've been in that building. I've owned that building since '89, and we're in the process of moving them out as we speak. Actually, I was down there just 2 days ago.
So, are you going to get somebody in for that building? You're going to sell the building?
Probably going to sell the building at this stage. My goal is to transition out of my assets down there and buy real estate in Jersey County or Greene County,
which you've done,
farmland or other investments. That's what I've been doing. Yeah. But that was my first acquisition in the commercial real estate, and then from there we've had great opportunities. I bought the Pepsi complex, the old Pepsi bottling facility down on Broadway back in the mid '90s, and we did the development around the old Holiday Inn there and at Crossroads there at 140 and Route 3 in Alton. I did all of those small developments, small buildings.
Were you and Adams working on those developments?
When I left Adams in 1993 and started TL Prehn Properties. And when I left, I had a number of transactions that Scott and I were working on, but I bought that particular piece from Scott. Mm-hmm. He owned it, and I bought it from him. Actually, he let me buy it on a note, and I was able to then put it together and develop it, and put Kenny Loy's office in there, and Marmino, the law office, and the foot doctor, the podiatrist is there. And a number of those buildings we ended up developing for end users.
Well, Ted, we've come along in this story, and we're getting close to you coming to Jerseyville.
Yeah, right? We're not quite here yet.
We're not quite here. We're gonna stop right here, and we'll end this episode of Ted Prehn and begin the next day, tomorrow.
Sounds good.
We'll finish it up. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And you'll be back.
I'll be back. It's sort of fun going down memory lane.
Yes, it is.